Now, just before we get into the skills and techniques of making prospecting calls, I want to share with you a really cool little idea that I think came from a book called Cold Calling for Chickens by Bob Etheridge, if I got his name correct. It's a really good little book, and I've read a lot of books on these subjects, and so I think this came from his. And it's the IKEA principle. Nothing to do with a Swedish furniture manufacturer or retailer, but that might help you remember it. Intelligence, knock-on effect, expansion, an appropriate next step. Now these can mean lots of different things, but let me give you one simple example for each one. So intelligence, target people to call using your brain. Don't just pick up the phone off a directory or something and then pitch. Start a conversation with, the reason I'm calling you today is because I've seen this on your website. I was given your number by somebody else. We're dealing with this company which is very similar to yours. I have a lot of experience in this area which I know is important to you. So to have some sort of reason to call which is relevant and can be articulated quickly and easily. Understand their business and the knock-on effect of the problems and challenges they face. So for example, if a particular company that you're targeting, let's say, is in a very competitive field and you know their margins are very small, well, what's the effect of that? Well, they have to run a low cost base, they have to be very accurate on their pricing, they have to control their processes, procedures extremely well. If your product or service can help them in those areas, then they will understand that that might be a reason to pay attention to you. So knowing something of the challenges an organization has, or a business, or even an individual person has, and the effect that has on their success, their goals, and their lives is an important principle, because you need to get to the point quite quickly on the phone, and you need to say something which is going to get their attention, as we'll see. Getting the attention either from an email or on the telephone is one of the most challenging things in the world today. The third principle, is expansion. And this is typically done through questions. It can be done with statements in some cases, but asking what is sometimes known as disruptive or disturbing questions is understanding their authority or responsibility for the product or service area you're talking to them about, and maybe the value of spending time or going to the next stage, finding out more information, etc. So expand your points, don't just simply take them at surface value. And the fourth point is always guide the person to the next step in the sales process. One of the kind of most common, or not most common, but most damaging mistakes you can make when you're making a sales prospecting call is to pitch too much product information or service information. Is tell somebody too much about what you can do and how you can help them, either because you just think that will make them interested, or because maybe they ask you a question, they say can you do this or can you do that, and you immediately then switch into product dump mode and go into all the facts and figures. Well, then they don't need to see you. They can make a decision that they're not interested, right? So always try and move them forward to the next step. There will be a stage when you can start talking about the product features or the service benefits and the prices and your credentials and why you're good and how you're appropriate. But right now, you've just got to sell the benefits of a meeting face to face, or taking a longer phone call, or some other form of online product demonstration. Use your intelligence. Think about the challenges and knock-on effect of those problems they have in their business or in their situation. Expand them through questions, and then suggest the logical, appropriate next step. That's the IKEA approach. Just to summarize, cold calling matters. I mean, it really matters. It's a really good way of keeping in contact with existing organizations, making new contacts in those businesses, and also creating an opportunity where none exist. Make some notes on these points. First of all, describe an ideal prospect. Both the demographics, the size, the type, the value of the business, but also the psychographics, the attitude, style and culture. Who is the best person to contact in that business? Not just the person who's easiest to get through, but who is going to have the most interest in what you offer or may get the benefit from having a better solution that you can create. 3 or 4 key points to make or be ready to make in a phone call. What would you like to achieve? I've already made some suggestions there. How many outbound calls do you need to make, and therefore what is your weekly or daily goal? Just think of those numbers. Think of the backward forward approach. So if I want to get 1 appointment, how many phone calls do I need to make to get that appointment? Or rather, how many connected calls do I need to get to make 1 appointment? I may have to make a lot of dials to get a certain number of connected calls. So this is the kind of number pyramid game of cold calling. So if I want to get 1 appointment, I might need to speak to 4 or 5 people several times before one of them gives me an appointment. Now, just getting hold of somebody might take 10 or 15 dials to find one person who is able to take a phone call. So think of these key questions, make some notes, and these will then put you in the position to be ready to take the next step of building a call prompt sheet and a call